Welcome to Practical Access. I'm Lisa Dieker.
And I'm Rebecca Hines. And today, Lisa, I'm going to go ahead and take the lead on introducing our guest. Today's guest has a wide range of experience. Currently is a superintendent of a charter school district as well as a CEO of UCP of Central Florida. And that is Dr. Ilene Wilkins. Welcome to the show, Ilene. We're going to
Thank you.
We kind of wanted to pick your brain, kind of from a bird's eye view and right down to the practical. So, as Lisa and Ilene know, Dr. Wilkins and I have collaborated on projects large and small over the last probably almost 20 years now, probably. And we've had a lot of great successes. But Ilene, I'm going to ask you to put on your educator hat for this discussion. If I'm a teacher and I'm working with somebody who is as busy as you are, who has so many responsibilities, but I feel like I have some ideas for innovation in an organization like yours, how would I go about approaching some type of new initiative? How would I get that to the top?
So that's a fun question because I do. It is because, again, as I can't believe it's been 20 years, but it probably has been considering the ages of our kids.
I know.
I think, one of the things that I always get excited about is new ideas and somebody that's really got passion to try something new and to be willing to just, so it'll work and it won't work or whatever. So, but as I think about what works the best is when people bring very specific, actionable, okay, this is what I'd like to do. This is how much it will cost. This is the Amazon link that it will go,
Right.
get the 5 things I need for it. And this is what I hope to accomplish. And this is how I'm going to measure what I'm going to do. And so if they kind of think out that a little bit, and, it doesn't have to be, and frankly, it's actually even worse when they do send you a 5-page version. I'm literally like, give me 5 bullets, give me a link to the budget and what your outcomes are planned to be. And again, we generally, it's funny because teachers sometimes think, oh my God, I've got this project and it's $500 and I could never, but those type of things are very, very easy to fit into a budget. And, if a teacher has that passion to get something new and try something, we're, usually leaders are really excited to support it.
So I love that response, and you're right. I know it seems like a lot, and sometimes we as teachers will take things out of our pocket instead of ask because we're afraid to ask, and I love you opening that door. And I think, Ilene, one of the things that you've done so well that I truly admire is I can't think of a partnership you don't have. I was trying to think of somebody you don't know or you don't have. What would be your recommendation to teachers and leaders that might be listening to this podcast about how have you garnered so many partnerships that are not so superficial? They're very deep, very meaningful, and you are very good at getting in people's pockets. So I'm curious about what that secret sauce is that you might offer to the listeners.
Well, I think that's, again, another kind of fun question because we used to, back when Toys R Us used to exist, we used to say we were partners of us because we, we really did. And I think that really does come from from the top leadership of truly believing that number one, you can't do it yourself. Number two, there's no, there's truly 1 + 1 is more than 2. And to really have that belief that, you can't do everything. And, if you could spread out what you can do and you can share and all the rest. I just recently was introduced to a partner from one of our board members who does PR. And, he had introduced us to a group that's doing some actually inclusion work in New York City. And we sat down and just talked about what they're doing, what we're doing, where there's some overlap. And I think that, just that desire to be open-minded and say, okay, what can you bring to the table, and not to, and, to always keep that focused on, we're here for the kids, we're here for the good reason, for the right reason. And, and yes, don't worry about credit, don't worry about, who gets, written up first or whose name is first in the article or whatever. So I think, that mindset is really important.
And I'll go ahead and backtrack now for our listeners a little bit about your organization. So UCP of Central Florida is obviously it's a nonprofit organization, and over the years they have expanded to serve students of all abilities. And one of the things that you've managed to do, Eileen, is capitalize, progressively on this idea of inclusion. So our work together over the last 20 years really revolved around this idea of taking a nonprofit organization. You had some schools at the time, but certainly nothing to the scale that you now have, and turning it really into a model inclusive organization. That said, there's still a wide range of services of kids of all abilities, but there's really these two hats I know that you wear. It's the school side, it's also the nonprofit side. So for our listeners who are maybe on the education side, can you give us an idea of how you see nonprofits maybe helping to support our school systems, or maybe things that teachers or parents could do to reach out to those nonprofits that are serving some of the same types of kids that we are?
Yep. Yeah, and it is, as you said, we really are, a unique model. I know everyone thinks they're special, but we really, we really do have a unique model, because most education systems are started as a school, as a charter school, or in a district, obviously, but we started as a nonprofit. So that kind of gave us an interesting lens of being able to say, okay, we really wanted that holistic idea. So as other leaders and other teachers and parents even think about, partners, really look at who's doing something similar, who's doing something, maybe serving the same clientele. Maybe they're running a job training program, maybe they're running an after school program, and to be able to again, go back to that win-win. How can we, work together? We're here for the same kids, and to reach out and just look at some options to be able to do that together.
Yeah, and I love your word together, because you're really good at that. As we said, you have lots of partnerships. But I think one of the things I've always been struck by and very much admire with the work you and your amazing network of schools and teachers and leaders do is that you are a teacher-led type of system where leadership is in the teacher's hands. And yet, I know you will humbly brag about being a high-achieving school with a range of disabilities in some of your sites. So what prompted you to move to a teacher leader role, and how do you give ownership to teachers?
Well, I think Dr. Hines gets some credit on helping to move that to us, because again, and I joke many times about, I had no idea what I didn't know, even 5 years ago, 7 years ago, 10 years ago. And so I think, philosophically, we were there, believing in shared leadership, believing in, there's no bad idea from anybody, everybody has some contribution. So, I think, again, philosophically, we were there, but it's still a challenge. We've often interviewed potential leaders and been very specific. This is not just a, we let them vote on the color of the T-shirt type of idea. It's really, what do you philosophically, what do you instructionally believe? What do you think is the best for kids? And you've got to be able to be willing to give away some power. And that's, folks are not always used to doing that or comfortable doing that. And so we've had some rough times of folks, they've nodded and said, we want to do that. And then when they got there, we're like, oh, you mean that means they actually get to have a voice? Yeah, they do. And not only do they get to have a voice, but you better take that voice seriously. That does not mean you have to, do everything they ask for. And, we certainly had to say no, but one of the things I like to tell my leaders is, you build up that, what they call emotional bank account of, saying yes, or maybe, or let's try it. And sometimes you're going to have to say no. And, but you've hopefully built up that bank account enough that, when you do say no, they're like, oh, okay, all right. And they respect that.
Well, obviously I know you personally, Eileen, and I know that you have a very, matter of fact affect, and you're a great leader probably because of it, because you can say no. And I know that you fight a struggle of even being when you're willing to accept ideas, people are afraid to share them. And so I just wonder if you could give, again, kind of back, it was great advice you gave me in my first question. You know, if I want something, how do I ask for it? And you said, yeah, be direct, be specific, keep it short. Tell me the action item. Let it be a yes, no decision. How do you think we can take and operationalize that idea of being willing to communicate with my school leaders? What kind of advice do you have for teachers if they just want to come and you've invited them to share ideas, but they're somehow just a little reluctant or scared? What's their first step?
Yeah, and I think that is interesting because, again, I know you and I have had this version of a conversation where, we really are open, and, I hate to say it, but some of it you just have to have that time of, them seeing other people come bring an idea, it worked, they were able to be heard. So as far as for teachers, I think, the idea that they, obviously always be respectful, always be, civil, always bring it back to the purpose we're here to is, which is kids. So I think it's sometimes hard, I mean, they're afraid of, getting quote unquote yelled at, or they've had what I affectionately call it a bad boss syndrome, where, they actually did get yelled at for saying something. So just, again, be persistent, be, don't ask somebody when they're, running down the hallway when, the fire drill just went off or something, obviously pick your timing and all the rest. But, or maybe get a buddy and, kind of do it together where,
right,
where you're, you've got a, and again, just like anything, bring what the benefit for everybody is. And that always helps, to pitch something.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. And I'm just going to kind of close up with, at the end of the day, what personally, whether it's from your nonprofit hat or your education hat, what do you feel like has been the most rewarding thing you've experienced as a leader of two major organizations?
I'm sorry, Becky, could you repeat that question? That's an airplane going off.
If only I could. Okay, I think
As
I
a
can.
leader of two
I think I
organizations.
can. Okay, so
Okay.
when you look back over your career and you're the leader of two major organizations, what do you feel just personally is, what's the feather in your cap? What are you most proud of as a leader?
It's funny. It's, people ask a version of that from time to time. And we actually were just in a meeting today and we were talking about that. And obviously there's some quote unquote monumental events from, buildings that we built or frankly, the transition to become a charter. But, those, certainly make me proud and feel good. But I really still, and, it's cliche, but I really do get the most, pride from, watching that child that, didn't succeed at a number of schools and then is at UCP and they're actually making making success. Or a teacher that maybe, had a, struggled with a previous administrator and tried something different and now is at UCP and is just making such an impact on kids.
Got it. So, love it. My last question for you is kind of to take the big picture back and give us maybe a couple of quick ideas. You're what I would call a yes and person. You're always good. I mean, we jokingly ask you for more letters than probably anybody in America because you always say yes to us and any partnerships and work we're doing. But how do you have, as a teacher, when parents want to come in, as an administrator, as a leader, an open door policy, but still not be overwhelmed at the same time? What's your advice?
Yeah, and that is, I mean, such a balance because you want to be open and actually in my role, one of my challenges is that I do want to quote unquote solve problems. And, folks sometimes, jump, 5 levels up to they want to talk to me. And, even though certainly I feel good that they feel like I'll solve the problem, I really try to help folks to go down, and I'll mediate with you. I'll talk with them, because it really is important that number one, you don't you know overthrow the quote unquote hierarchy, but you also train your folks below you to be able to deal with difficult situations, to be able to figure out a win-win, problem solve, etc.
And as a classroom teacher, when parents, you just have such an open door policy for parents. I'm pretty sure you would let me sleep in the room if I felt like I needed to. How do you help your teachers feel comfortable with parents being there as often as they'd like?
Yeah, and I do think, again, it's sort of one of those things where you just sort of build on it. We all have kids, and we know that the thing you tell the kid not to do is the thing that they want to do the most. So if you tell the parent, no, you can't come in, you can't watch. Now she or he is worried about, okay, why aren't you letting me in? What's going on back there? So again, it's hard, because you've got your work to do. So it's sort of that, yes, but you can come in, but I'd like you to only come in during this time, because we're working on something that requires a little bit more concentration at this time. Would that work for you? Or is there something specific you'd like to see that we can make sure we're showing you?
Yeah, so great advice. Well,
And
Becky, you're going to wrap us up there with the
Well,
question.
I will. I just want to mention, because others would not be familiar with this concept, but when Ilene is talking about this idea of making her school open even to parents, the schools that she has most recently built literally have observation windows. And it's a whole new idea, and it's a whole different idea. The schools are designed so that people can come in and take a look. And I think that type of transparency is really admirable, and one of the many things that we appreciate about you, Ilene.
Well, thank you, Ilene, for joining us, and we thank our listeners for learning from your great advice. If you have questions, you can certainly post them on our Facebook page at Practical Access, or send us a tweet at Access Practical.